Yes, Bava Kama, Daf, Hey, Amud Aleph in the bottom of the page. Today's Amud is Hey, Amud Beis, but we're at the end of Hey, Amud Aleph now. And let's just start. Let's just go. This Shiur is Lenishmas of Amir, Menachem, and Akiva. Yay. Lo Rasho Karei Hamav. We're quoting the Mishnah, the two dots, which are 5 lines from the bottom of the page. Lo Rasho Karei Hamav. The Mishnah said, the show is not like the mavet. What does that mean? The show is not like a mavet. I know a show is not a mavet. What does it mean? Frag the Gemara, my ka'omar. What does the Mishnah exactly want from our lives where the Mishnah says that? If you want, you can see Tosfos later. He has a deeper explanation, which I'm not going into right now. My ka'omar, what does the Mishnah mean when it uses that language? Lo harei zeh ke harei zeh. What does it mean? Omar of Zvid mishmei derove, hachi ka'omar. This is what it means. Lichtov Rachmono Chada, let the Torah write one of the two. Let's speak Shor and then Mave. Toss a coin, whichever one you want. Rav or Shmuel, what's Shor and what's Mave? No, yalla. What's Shor and what's Mave? Guys, wake up. Good morning. Shor is an oxen. Imam, very good. You are a Rav supporter. Yeah, you bet that Rav's going to win the race. Rav says Shor is an ox with all the different nezikin, and Mave is a person. The Torah could have written one, either ox or person, v'teisi idach minei, and the other one I would have known. Teisi, I would have brought the idach. Idach means the other one from it. I could have derived myself from my own logic. I would have concluded that if a man is chayev, a shor is chayev, or the other way, if a shor is chayev, then a man is chayev. And says the Gemara, answers the Mishnah with the explanation of the Gemara now. Hadar Omar. Afterwards, the Mishnah says, no, chada michada loy asya. We can't learn one from the other. Why? Because each one has different characteristics. You chose Rav, let's go for Rav. The Gemara says in Daf Daled Amud Aleph, the Gemara says that the shor pays koifer. If the Torah would have written show that a show has to pay nezek, I would not have known about a man. Why? Because a show, we already have a preconception before that a show pays koifer. If a show kills a person, the owner of the show has to pay the full worth of the person, the value of the person. We're in Hey Amud Aleph in the bottom of the page. Okay, Mashenkin, a man doesn't have to pay koifer. Then we know already. So maybe nezek he doesn't have to pay either. Just like he doesn't pay koifer, maybe he doesn't pay any damage b'chlal. I don't know. And on the other hand, I would say the other way. If you would have only told me Adam, and Adam has to pay 4 different nezikin besides the nezek, 4 different payments, right? Sheves, Moshes, Ripui, right? V'chul etzar. So too, now a show doesn't, right? If someone's show caused you shame, if someone's chimpanzee made a funny joke, it's a very well-trained chimpanzee, and she put, I don't know, slapstick on your face, she put a cream cake on your face, and everyone's laughing, and you don't like it. So the owner doesn't have to pay. The owner doesn't have to pay. Only if a man does that, he has to pay. But if the owner of the chimpanzee doesn't have to pay, an animal's owner doesn't have to pay for nezikin, only the basic nezik, not the medical expenses and the tar and the bushes and all that. If so, I would have said, so maybe, what's his name? Maybe you don't have to pay at all. Maybe the show, if show's nezik wouldn't have written outright, explicitly black and white, then maybe I would have known the show either. The show is a very indirect thing. Kamash malan, we need to have both. 1 second. Kamash malan, we have to have both. The Torah has to mention both a person and an ox to tell me both a person is chayiv to everything that he does, and the show has to pay also, meaning his owner has to pay for the nezik done by the show. Yes, question, Yosef. Yeah, I'm listening. Message. Baruch Hashem. Later on, the Mishnah, we're now quoting the Mishnah bit by bit. The next part of the Mishnah said, meaning both. We're slowly grouping up, we're accumulating all the Avos Nezikin, explaining why each and every one had to be mentioned in the Torah outright. Continues the Mishnah, quoted here, meaning, both Shor and Mave have Ruach Chaim. What does Ruach Chaim mean? It's a sefer by Ruach Chaim, life force, force of life. Both man and animal have their own internal engine, right? And they are different to who? To Esh. Esh also moves around, but it's, so to speak, Yeah, it's moved. It's inanimate object. That's true, and it moves around. It's being empowered by an exterior force called the wind, right? And who controls the wind? But still, it's a person's achrayus. When you do a barbecue in your backyard and it's all nice and safe, make sure it's really safe. And if you see wind coming, start to control it very, very quickly and make sure that the wind doesn't blow it to your friend's field. My Koma, what does the Mishnah say? This is what the Mishnah says. We're now in Hey Amud Beis. Lichtov Rachmono Tarti. The Torah could have written two items only, Shor and Mave. Why can't the Torah just write Shor and Mave, right? And the Torah could have skipped Eish. The Torah could have omitted the whole story with the Eish. V'teisi idach minayu. And then the idach, meaning the Eish, could have been written, could have been not written, could have been taught, could have been learned, could have been derived from them. Adar Omar, no, you can't. One from those two cannot be taught. Why? Because they share a common denominator, as I already told you, already showed all the cards before. The person and the animal, what about them? Those beings, they have their own internal power. And Mimela, when the Torah says that they're chayv and nezikin, I would not have known automatically with my own knowledge, with my own logic, that Eish is also chayv. Eish is powered by something else, so maybe I'm not chayv on that. Yeah, Eish naturally stays in its own place. You put the Eish in a safe place with stones all around, like Nais, Avos, Shalom, Medura, and Lag Bomer, nothing moves, right? Because it's in its place. Unless the wind. Wind is a whole new thing. I didn't know the wind's going to come. The wind is a whole new factor. So if the Torah would have told me a man and beast, I wouldn't have known automatically with my own logic that Eish is also Chayv and Ezekin, basically, and therefore the Torah needs to tell me Eish also, the Torah is to write Eish. Now I'm continuing where the Gemara stops. Now Akiva Teichtal is talking, and I'm actually making bracha first. We are in Hey Amud Beis, in the top of the page. 5b. Yeah. Hey Beis. The Hey Days. Now listen for a second. How does the Mishnah continue? Although it's not quoted. Then we said why? If we already said men, animal, and fire, why does the Torah have to mention bow? Why does the Torah have to mention bow? Because bow is different to all three, and this is very important to know for the hemshech of the Gemara. Bow is completely static. Is the word I was looking for. Exactly. Great minds think alike. I mean, you're great. It's completely static, completely stable. He's a stable guy. The bow, it's true that it's absolutely horrendous. The person left the bow in the middle of the street, guys, nuts. Yeah, the Uriah should definitely fire him. Yeah, he left bow in the middle of the street, but the bow doesn't go anywhere. You came to the bow. Your show came to the bow. The fire and the animals and the people, they walk around damaging. But the bow, if you don't bother it, it won't bother you. It's one of those little pets in the corner. Yeah. In other words, the bow is static, and therefore I would have not known bow from anybody else. Okay, very good. That's what the Torah has to tell me. All of them. Now we're about to enter a whole new story. A little introduction. If you look at the shape of this Amud is small but really big because the text of the Gemara is very short, but the text of Rashi is humongous. This Rashi, what? Very unusual. Rashi is usually a katzah, and as opposed to Rashbam, we used to Rashbam from Basra, you have like a whole Megillah every page, fine. Rashi was very miserly when it comes to words on purpose. And here Rashi goes into great length, and soon you'll understand Faravus. Let me start by giving the introduction. We just said that the bow, logically speaking, bow, in a way, is the most unlikely one to be chayav on. The bow is in the street, and it's true that people walk down the street, but the bow is not a mobile object. In other words, if you have two terrorists, two terrorists, yeah, one terrorist, chas v'sholem, not science fiction in our country, walks around, he goes into Chalila, Yerushalayim, Western Yerushalayim, he goes into, I don't know, different places, into Lod, into Nari, I don't know. Who's more dangerous, him or the terrorist that sits at home? One terrorist sits at home, very dangerous, hostile Arab village, but if you don't go to his village, if you go to his village, he'll kill you. Stay out of his village. tell the GPS, program the GPS not to go near Arab villages, and finished. If you can do that, Gemara. The Arab that goes out, the terrorist Arab, I mean, I'm politically correct, not all Arabs are terrorists, yeah? But the terroristic Arab that goes out and starts doing piguim out of his house, he goes, but it's much more dangerous, right? The bow is a terrible terrorist in the middle of the street, but if you know to stay away from that bow, the bow won't run after you. Yeah, so far we haven't seen a bow that runs after people. We will later. You're laughing, we'll see such a combination. Usually boars don't run. If so, once we know that, if the Torah told me that bow is chayev, maybe you could say kol sheken all the others. Get what I'm saying? Teach me bow only. If bow, that what? If bow, that is such a nice guy, he sits in his place and he's completely inanimate, not moved bichlal, yeah, not movable, and the bow is chayev, maybe the Torah could have skipped all other ones and not mention them, and it would known for bow. I'll tell you, this is all introduction to the Gemara we're going to see. It's not a hard Gemara. It just needs some, whatever, calculation. On the other hand, bow also has a very vicious characteristic. Bow is the best boy and the worst boy of all four. Why? Because bow also is called tchilas asiyosoi lenezek. It's also in the chart, which you know by heart, my chart from the beginning, yeah? Tchilas asiyosoi lenezek means animals, now I sound like some, whatever, Californian or something. Animals are born nice. Animals are born not in order to be mazik. Even the worst animal is not just mazik, yeah? In other words, animals have different functions besides being mazik. When a baby animal is born, it's a nice animal. Even if it's a lion or something, the animal is an animal. It also happens to be mazik. Yeah, later on in life, it starts biting people if they bother it. Yeah, but it's not just all about nezik. Bow, on the other hand, what's a bow? What does a bow mean? The bow's creation, right from the beginning, is also a betuma. The bow, when you dug the bow in the middle of the street, maybe also had good kavanos to dig for gold because you're in a gold rush. But also, the bow is. The whole idea of bow is right from its beginning, from its inception, is one big piece of mazik. The bow is tchilas esiyosol nezik. You're on YouTube also. Don't say that. Yeah, it's not just hidden. It's not necessarily hidden. It's in the middle of the street. You mean because you can't see it? Also, an interesting point. It's not always hidden, by the way, because sometimes it's also a stumbling stone on top of the street. 3D. Okay. In any event, the bow tchilas esiyosol nezik. Once you dig it, the whole idea, it's mazik right from the beginning, and the whole essence of it is just nezik. In that respect, I could say, no. If bow would be written, I wouldn't know about my show. Bow, of course I can't dig a bow in the street. Am I nuts? The whole thing is just nezik. But to take my animal for a walk in the street, and maybe later the animal will start goring, I didn't know that. It's a whole new development. But a bow, it's not called a new development. The whole bow is just mazik right from the start. The whole idea of bow is just an elevation or a depression in the ground that causes nezik. That's all it does. Mashenkin, an animal, doesn't start right out from the beginning as a bad thing. In that respect, the bow is the worst boy. And the bow, I wouldn't have known all the others from bow. Having that in mind, let's continue the Gemara. So remember, bow is the best and the worst. Let's. Omar Rava. The Kulhu. Rava wants to say something very courageous, very, very different, that will put our Mishnah into, under serious interrogation. Omar Rava. The Kulhu. All Avos Nezikin. How many Avos Nezikin are there? Trick question. You say 4, any other answers? It's true. 4. You can also say, we're talking those in the Mishnah, 24. No, in the Mishnah, how many are there? Good one. Either 4 or 6. No, in the Mishnah 6. In the Mishnah 6. Why? Let's count. Do I know how to count till 6? I think so. The bow Shor has 3, right? Shen, Regel, and Keren, right? Persona, then a bow and Esh. 6, okay? So now we have 6. All of the Avos Nezikin, listen carefully to the formula of Rava. Had the Torah reading inside, Kishadis bo beinayu, if the Torah would have thrown bow between them, if the Torah would have written bow, as yakulhu b'meh hatzad, all other Avos Nezikin, I could have learned them b'meh hatzad. Let me tell you this in English. Lebal mi Keren. Keren we'll talk about later. If the Torah would have written, listen to the formula. I wish I had a whiteboard now, but I don't. This is like a mathematical formula. If the Torah would have written bo, and then, listen carefully to my English, and then any other nezek, any other av, then every av nezikin could have been taught in between. For example, if the Torah would have written bo on one hand of the formula on one side, and then the Torah would have written, I don't know, keren, okay? If the Torah would have only written bo and keren, all other obvious nezikin could have been learned between the two of them. Those two would have like hugged them from both sides, and I would have known all obvious nezikin from bo and keren. Now switch. Bo, and let's turn around the other wheel. Bo stays fixed. Bo is always there. Let's say the Torah is in bo and H. Bo and H only, I would have known all obvious nezikin between them. Logically, I would have derived all other obvious, shen, regel, mav, safta, whatever you want, would have all learned from Bo and H. Bo and X, that's a formula. Bo plus X equals anybody. That's math. How does that work? So I decided to treat you like big children. We're not going to read the entire long Rashi. That will take like 2 days. But we're going to read through 1/3 of the Rashi to give you a taste of how that formula works. Why is it true that Bo, being the best and the worst, I already gave you the hint, plus any other nezek, between them, they would have taught me all other nezikin. I'm reading Rashi now. The long Rashi starts with the words, the kulu kishadis, the middle of the narrow lines. The middle of the narrow lines, the kulu kishadis bo benayu asya. Says Rashi, iksiv bo. Let's say it would have said bo, the chada mehanach, and one of all the others. Thank you very much, appreciate it. Had the Torah told me bo, and any of the others, asya kulhu me'ahu umeidach betzad hashove. I would have known everybody else. Tzad hashove means when you have two halachas in the Torah, that between them, because one is a good cop, one is a bad cop, so to speak, they would have taught you all the other Avos. How on earth is that? Now let's go. Rashi, you know Rashi is so long? Because it goes through all 16 combinations. All different combinations of bo plus x equals all the others. The iksiv bo v'keren. First one. First group. Keren, he's on the stage. Bo and Keren. Let the Torah tell me only Bo and Keren, and I'll prove to you how all other others don't have to be written. I would have known them myself with my own logic. Let's go. Now the ball starts rolling. Now, the iksiv bo v'keren asya shen minayu. Shen would have been taught by them automatically. Why? This way. Ma bo she'en darko le'lechu lahazik chayev. Bo is a good boy. He stays where? In his place. He doesn't walk around being mazik. He's static. He's stable, right? If so, and yet he's chayev. Oh, even he. Shen, shedako elechulazik, l'kol sheken. A shen, the animal walks around and eats and walks and eats and walks and eats all the time. Of course, chayev. It's a walking danger. He goes everywhere with his ugly teeth, eating everyone's fruit. Male bo. Now you could have said the other way. Hey, wait a second. But bo is also a bad boy. I could have said no, matitom. No, bo is not the best one, and kol sheken shen is chayev. I could look at more the other way. Male bo sheken tchilas esyoso omed lenezik. Bo, right from the start, is one big piece of garbage. One big piece of what? Nezik. It's only for nezik. When an animal eats, it's not nezik. An animal's eating very nicely in its own barn, like a good girl. Yeah, bo is the most vicious one. Toimar b'shen. Please continue in Rashi. Toimar, line starts toimar. Maybe shen is not so bad. I could have looked at shen differently. I could say, no, bo is chayev because you stupid, you dug a bore in the middle of the street, all things most horrendous, hazardous thing. I don't think one country in the world allows such a thing. But shen, it's not, yeah, I could have said shen, bore is worse. Shen is not so bad. Shen is not all about nezek. So maybe shen I'm not chayev on. Because we have this conundrum with bo, here comes the bad cop to the rescue. Keren, remember, bo is on one side, Keren is now on the other side, and everybody else in between is falling in. Keren yochiach. A Keren would prove your point. Why? Male Keren, because Keren is not chilas asiyos nezek. You say, no, maybe only Boris Chayev, because he's so terrible. He just created nezek, which right from the first second is nezek only. Keren is not like that. Keren, my bull was a very nice boy until that moment where it started goring. A bull is not just nezek, yeah, he can actually plow and do nice things too. So, and yet Keren is chayev. So you see your point about bull is wrong. So maybe now you're going to say that if so, Keren alone can prove to you. If Keren is chayev, all the more so Shen is chayav. Remember, the one we're trying to prove is Shen. Shen is the one in the middle. You know this ball game of children? You know, the two kids on both sides, and the one in the middle has to, you know, sort of run away from the ball or catch the ball. He's the monkey in the middle. It's called, I think, in American side. Yeah. What?
We call it pig in
the middle. Shkoyach. Okay, each one to his own. The kids are Shen is the one in the middle. Bor and Keren between them are proving that Shen is chayev. Now we're focusing on Keren and we're saying, look, Keren didn't start out right bad and it's chayev, so Shen should also be chayev. Okay, nice. So maybe learn it only from Keren. So we don't need Bo. Maybe Keren can teach you. If Keren is chayev, Koshik and Shen is chayev, because both of them started out right when he was a nice little cutesy calf coming out of his mommy. Says Gemara, no, you can't prove it with Keren only and erase Bo. No, you need Bo. You know why? Malik Keren shikin kavanosa lehazik. Keren kavanosa lehazik. A Keren is more vicious than Shen. Keren is a nasty show. He wants to damage. He's malicious. He's not just a tmimas dika little shepsel who's eating because he's hungry. So maybe Keren is chayiv and Shen is not. I wouldn't have known it, but Keren only. Get what we're saying? We're trying to prove how both Keren and Bo, each one has one quality. Between those two quality, the Shen is sandwiched in the middle and proven to be chayiv. Bo yochiach. Bo will prove, because Bo is a good boy, because Bo is not kavanos lahazik. Bo is no kavono. Bo doesn't have a mind. The show does have some kind of mind. Some people have the mind of a bull. That's a different story. But Bo, yeah, but chas v'shalom. Bo yochiach. A Bo will prove a Bo is not malicious or vicious, and yet is chayev. Between the two of them, they're caught Shen in the middle. The pro and con of both Bo and Keren got Shen to be chayev. Yeah, if you meet out both, comes out that Shen is chayiv in the middle. The chozar adin. What's chozar adin? We came to a nice conclusion. Both Bo and Keren share such qualities that Shen also shares. One quality from Bo is what? En kavanos lahazik. One quality from what? From Keren, the what? That it's en chilos lenezek, right? Oh, very nice. Between them, Shen is caught in the middle. And I know Shen, without the Torah telling me. So it's a question, why does the Torah have to say Shen? I think I'd stop Rashi here. I think it's a little bit too much for the people. You can see it in your own free time. But the same way Rashi proves Bo plus anybody can teach us everybody.
So what did you include the regular? Oh, sorry.
No, the same thing as Lego. Do you want one more? Let's do one more. One more. Continues Rashi. Afani avishen. V'chen regel mikeren v'bo, Rabbi. First wide line. Let's put Keren on one side and Bo on the other side. Regel could also be taught in the middle exactly the same way. Maybe Bo alone cannot teach me, because Bo is so bad. The whole essence of Bo is just for nezek. But little cutesy regel is not only for nezek. Animal doesn't walk and always mazik. Maybe regel is not chayiv, right? Bo alone doesn't prove an regel. Bo is one shtick mazik from the beginning. The regel is more innocent. Keren yochiach. Keren proves to you. Look at Keren. He's on the other side of the corner. Yeah? And he tells us what? Even though Keren also is not only mazik. Karen belongs to a show that can be a regular nice guy. Yeah? Karen is not like as bad as Bo, and yet Karen is chayev. All the more so, Regel is chayev. Now we're going to say no. Once Karen gores, it does this maliciously. Mashenken Regel is not malicious. Regel is walking innocently. So Karen alone without Bo cannot prove anything on Regel. Bo yochiach. Prove it from Bo, because Bo doesn't have malicious intentions either. And Rashi goes on and on and on and on, four times to prove all different combinations. It's not for the scope of our type of shiur. Maybe if we have time, I want to actually hop around and start the next Amud also. Rashi proves all except for one nezek, which cannot be taught. All 5 nezikin, I insist, out of 6 avos that we have, 5 avos nezikin, or actually 4 avos nezikin, could be taught from Bo and X. The Torah could have written Bo and pick a number, anyone, and all the others would have been taught. But the same formula the Rashi created for us. Except for one. I'm back to the Gemara now, because I think this Rashi is a little bit too much for us. Yeah, I'm back to the Gemara. But Me'atzad, we're in the 4th line of the Amud. Lebar mikeren. The only av which we cannot learn automatically from the other 2 is keren. You tell me, what's the difference between keren and everybody else? You said it before, Yosef Melamed. You mentioned before Tam and Muad. Tam and Muad only exist where? By keren. There's no other av, there's Tam and Muad. Says the Gemara, Mishum de'ikal mifrach. If you tell me Bo and X, I would have challenged you regarding Keren. Malekulu sheken muodin mitchiloson. All other nizikin are muad right from the start. Muad means it's normal. It's normal for a show to walk. It's normal for a show to what? To eat. It's not normal for sure to gore. According to one opinion, shvorim bechezkas shimu. There's an opinion in the Gemara Daf, I think, Tezvav later. Shvorim usually don't stamp gore unless you do something to them, or you bother them, or they were abused as a child. Or they don't stamp gore. Yeah, bechezkas shimu. It's a strange thing, and that's why the payment also is only half. So Mimela, Bo is normal to be mazik. Anybody falling into Bo would die in 10 tfachi, or almost everyone, yeah, was injured. Anybody, Shen, Regel are normal. Yeah, Esh always burns, you know. It's always like that. It's normal. For a Bo, for a show, to gore is less normal. It's not mamash sheder chatev. It's not something he does every day like walking and eating. And Mimela, I would have not known him from any of the others. So the Torah should have written Bo, Keren, and X, somebody else. So at least 3 avos don't have to be mentioned in the Torah. This is still a question. Why did the Torah write all 6 avos nezikin? Continues the Gemara more about Keren. Here I want to surprise you. Uleman de Omar Adarabe. There's another opinion later on. Tosa says this in Daf Yudain. There is an opinion that says Adarabe. On the contrary, Keren Adifa, Keren is more chayev, should be more chayev than anybody else, shekavanosoi lahazik, because it has bad intention. Explains Tosfos. You remember what I told you all the time? That it's not normal for a show to be mazik, right? The show one day became a mazik. I didn't expect it. The shore went out of the norm. He changed the chazaka, the normal behavior, started goring. Maybe he got into bad chevra. He went to the pub last night. I don't know what he did. All this time he's a bad boy. Yeah, going to Ayalon Park. Yeah, so now what? Became bad. I don't know. It was a nice kid. Right? Now, there is another school of thought that says just the other way. The other school of thought says that show is what? A show stam shvorim bechezkas lav bechezkas shimo. A show is a chayro. A show to be mazik is normal for the show, and you should have expected it. The reason why we only charge chetzi nezek twice is like lahavdil. Everybody knows there's a thing called first-time offense. Right? You give less. The police is usually makel in many countries. First time, second time offense, you say, because it's not super normal, it's just normal, you say, okay, the bailim get half price. They come out with half. Oh, you give him a reduction. But really, it's normal for the short to be mazik. According to this, if you said that it's normal for the short to be mazik and it's kavono, says the Gemara, afilu keren, I'm continuing the Gemara now, line starts afilu. Afilu keren nami asya. Keren also should be taught from the others. Just like it's normal for the bow to have people falling into it and fire to burn, it's quite normal for the short also to gore. So keren should also be taught from the other Avos. Now the question screams, Ela lemai hilchisa kasvino rachmano. So why did the Torah write them? Let the Torah skip 3 or 4 Avos Nezikin, and it would have known all of them from Bo plus X, right? Why does the Torah write all of them? Answers the Gemara a brilliant answer, as usual, as always. Le'ilchosein. Le'ilchosein means for the halachas. What does it mean for the halachas? For the special feature each one has. If you look at the chart, each Av Nezikin has a quirk, has a idiosyncrasy, has what? One crazy thing that's different to everybody else, either lakula or lachumra. And the Gemara is going to now elaborate on that now. Keren, the reason why the Torah wrote the Avos Nezikin in the Torah is to tell me those cases that are different to everybody else. Meaning, of course, I would have known, let's take Esh. If the Torah would have written Bo and Shen, I would have known Esh. I would have known Esh myself with the whole formula that we made, the whole big Rashi. Why did the Torah write Esh? I would have known that I'm chayiv if I burned someone's field or if my fire went out of control. But I wouldn't have known the detail of Esh. That special detail that only Esh has, soon we'll see what it is, or maybe you know it, that only Esh has a certain exemption and other others don't have the exemption. That's why Esh has to be mentioned, because the special feature it has, and the same goes for everybody else. Let's see how the Gemara says now. This Gemara is super important. This is the Gemara of the special features of each one. Keren, the first one is Keren. What kind of specialty does Keren have? You know for sure, as Yosef started the Shiur today, a good note. Lechalek ben tama lemuedes. To differentiate between Keren tama and muedes. Keren is feminine. Keren gdoilo. Yeah. A Keren which is tama. Yeah. Keren chashuva. Yeah. Keren tama lemuedes, which means, as we know, a tam pays half. I wouldn't have known that. I wouldn't have known that. I don't know the Torah gives first time offense. That's in the American court. I don't know if that's in the halacha. Who says? I wouldn't have known that. The Torah has to tell me that. The Torah has to tell me that the Keren pays the first 2 times only half. That's news. I wouldn't have known that detail. And anyway, by the way, Keren, right, and Leman Domer Keren is abnormal anyway. I wouldn't have known it. That's besides it. Shen v'regel. Why did the Torah have to write Shen v'regel? Lefoitron b'shus harabim. Guys, every syllable here is important. Shen v'regel. If I walk with my little shepsele in the street, or with the cow or the bull, and as they walk along, they're eating from the stands, like in India. Yeah, they walk from the marketplace as they walk along, or they trample on everyone else's papayas, I don't know, strawberries. Am I chayiv to pay? No, I don't. Why? It says, only if I send my animals willingly or neglectingly out to a different field of someone else in the street. Remember, back then it was very normal for people to walk with animals. Like today in the Western world, it's normal to walk with a dog. So let's say the dog walks on someone else's property that he left in the middle of the street. I would say here in the neighborhood, a lot of dogs walk around. It's normal for the dog to walk. Yeah, my Amstaff, such a cute little animal, the Amstaff, cutie. The Amstaff is walking all over someone's, I don't know, passport and makes it dirty and I don't know, unidentifiable. Don't leave your passport in the street. My animal has the right to walk there. But I wouldn't have known that. I wouldn't have known without the Torah telling me. Now, Bo anyhow has to be mentioned, says Rashi at Tosfos, right? Because Bo is one of those that create the formula. But in any event, the Gemara mentions what's the special thing about Bo? Lifto Bo Yasakelim. As we said before, the special thing about Bo, it says, V'nofal Bo Shor Chamor. Shor v'lo Odom, Chamor v'lo Kelim. Which means, if a person falls into the pit, the Baal Habo is Potu. The people should have been careful. And also Kalim, if someone's dishes fell inside, the Chamor fell, and he's taking your new beautiful china set for Shabbos from the mikveh Kalim, shrach, into the bowl, and your entire china set falls into the bowl. You want to kill the guy. but don't kill him, and he doesn't even have to pay for your kelim. It's exerts the cost of the kelim that fell into the bowl, he doesn't have to pay for. I don't know what's the mystical reasons here, but that's what the Torah says. The Torah is doirish. Rabbi Yehuda later on in the Masechta will tell us that he believes that bow owner does have to pay for the kelim. Then why is the Torah mentioning bow? Bow, what's a different thing about, what's a special feature of bow? Lifto boy so odom. Odom, if a man fell into a pit, the Baal bow is potu. The Baal bow doesn't have to pay. Everyone agrees that a person, a human being that fell into the bowl, the Baal bow is potu. Thank you for not asking questions, because all these details about bow and this all mentioned later. The whole story with bow, Odom, Kalim, believe me, there will be a lot going on about it later on. Odom. What's a special thing regarding Odom that is different to all other Nizikin? And that's why the Torah had to mention Odom, Baruch Hashem. What is this? L'chayva b'abod dvorim. 3 lines from the bottom. L'chayva b'abod dvorim. Which 4 things is a person chayiv? Which animals or fire or boar is not chayiv? I need my tea break. So you tell me, which 4 things is a person chayiv if he punched his friend on the face and broke his nose? And before that, the guy was a model from the magazine. So now, which, besides Nezek, that now he can't be a model anymore, so now he's worth much more. Besides that, which other 4 Nezikim are there? Tea break for me, and you talk. Sheves. No, we're talking about the Nezek caused to the person, not the medical expenses, right, which is the Ripui, excuse me. Pain, which is Tsar, very nice. You said before Sheves, which is shame, very nice. And Boshes, he said, and Sheves, loss of work. He can't be a model anymore, but could have been a shomer bitachon, could have been a guard by your kid's gun. They don't care if it has punched nose, any of the kids punch his nose. Yeah, so, right? So you still have to pay him for potential work he could have done, yeah? In other words, besides the medical expenses, they pay the plastic surgeon, also you have to pay him for those, 3 weeks he was in hospital and he lost work. Very good. Ellen, you got a note. You got a note. Weiter. Good. Esh. Next one. You both get notes. Esh, lifto bois atomun, esh lehava. The Torah says if a fire finds godish or kama, the fire found all kinds of haystacks or kama. Kama means the stalks as they stand, as they're still connected to the ground. Why does the Torah have to start giving you all these picturesque stories, descriptions of a field? Says the Gemara that Eish is potu is exempt from tamun. Tamun means hidden or buried. Let's say someone buried his $1 million. What's the best place to? He's a plantation owner, and he doesn't want anyone to steal his $1 million. Took his wallet with $1 million, and he actually hid it inside the haystack in a very hidden place, even with some fence, wooden fence all around. And then the other neighbor's fire came and burnt everything by mistake, by negligence. He has to pay for all the haystacks and all the hay and all the, sunflower, whatever he grows there. But for the gelt, he doesn't have to pay. Anything that's hidden, even though fire does not have intelligence, I know that. The Torah says, just like the Torah says, Gadish or Kama, things that are exposed, only exposed things you have to pay for if your fire went haywire, went out of control. But for things that are hidden, you don't have to pay by fire. Why? It's a good question. It's decided, and that's only true about Eish. Let's say your animal, says Rashi an example, let's say your bull that has some kind of little brains in his head, whatever, the bull started kicking some kind of, different languages, in a rucksack, whatever, knapsack, whatever, a sack, yeah? A sack full of clothes, full of, let's say, kalim. The kalim broke. Yeah, he has to pay. Even though they were hidden inside the sack, the bull's owner has to pay for it, right? Of course. Or if they fell into the bowl, yeah, you don't have to pay because it's kalim. But let's say someone's wheat was inside a bag. There was a bag full of wheat, and it fell into the bowl, and somehow got damaged there. I don't know why it's damaging for the wheat, but conceptually, or maybe not wheat, tomatoes. The tomatoes all, boom, they all smashed. Yeah, boom, they all burst in the bowl. Do you have to pay tomato sauce? He wants the real ones. He wants the crunchy ones. Yeah, so then do you have to pay for the tomatoes? Yes, even though it's tamun. Who cares they're hidden? Shmid and hidden. Only by fire. If it's hidden, zeras akosov, tamun, fire doesn't have to pay for tamun, the fire owner. Now continues the Gemara. As always, we have a machlokes here too. Rabbi Yehuda argues and claims that tomun in esh, hidden things in esh, the esh owner does have to pay. If so, la tuye mai. So what is it coming to tell me? Why did the Torah have to tell me fire? There is no special feature of a fire. Answers the Gemara. La tuye, it comes to include lichecha niroi v'sichsecha avonov. Lichecha means it literally means it licked the furrows of land, the ground, and sichsecha avonov, it scorched the stones. What does that mean? We know that fire, some things, as we all know from the age of zero, some things are flammable, yeah, they are consumed by fire, flammable, whatever, but some things are not, right? For example, the land. Let's say someone's fire burned someone's a field full of whatever, of wheat. The wheat is mamish burnt and completely consumed. What about the land? The land is not completely burnt. It didn't consume the land all the way down to New Zealand. Yeah, it didn't burn the land. Elamai, it touched the earth and burnt it in a way that is mazik. It is mazik. The land that's now burnt has to be cultivated again. So, but that's like a semi-nezik, because fire doesn't really eat up the land. And the same thing, let's say someone's house was on fire, lo aleinu, and it's not a wooden house. It's a very smart to do in America, I heard. Very smart thing. The house from wood, that's rather more, right? There are more cases of fire there, but some places. So if your house is made out of, we shouldn't know. The fire is made out of, the fire is made out of fire. The house is made out of stones. Then the walls, they don't really burn, but they're scorched. They become black, they become, right? They're not as nice as before. You need to repaint. It's also nezik. If someone's fire got into your house, chas v'sholem, and burnt the table's completely gone. The walls, halfway. The fire owner, so to speak, also has to pay for things that are not completely scorched. Why is that a chiddush? Because I'll tell you, says Rashi, that's a special thing by fire. Fire is chayiv even for eating, consuming things she'en dakoi, that it's not normal for the fire to eat. If you make a Lag BaOmer bonfire, everybody knows you don't put in stones. You don't put in earth. Okay, right? The extinguisher of it. So it's not fire food. So even though the fire ate food that's not normal for it, it's still considered as chayiv, and that's a chiddush. Because by an animal, let's say, I'll ask you a question, and that's not funny. Let's say your cow ate someone's shoes. Are you chayiv? Mitzad shein? No. Shein is only if you chayiv if the animal ate something that shadako bekach, something normal for the animal to eat. But if the animal ate your shoes, it's not normal for the animal to eat your shoes. Maybe you chayiv keren. It's a discussion in the Gemara later on. What happens if it ate the clothes? What? Oh, because it has a characteristic like keren, meshune. Very nice. It's shen, meshune, you know his stuff. We'll discuss it later. You're not chayiv mitzad shen. You don't chayiv. Yeah, you're not chayiv nezek sholem because it's not normal for the animal to eat the shoes. But for the fire to eat the land or the stones, even though it's not normal, so to speak, but the damage was done, the fire has to pay. The fire owner has to pay full nezek, and that's a special thing by fire. Okay, very good.
Smell of it afterwards.
I don't know how much you have to pay for afterwards. I don't know. I'll tell you. Maybe that's like Roma. In other words, the fire's immediate nezek is the stuff that was burnt. His table is worth 2,000 shekels. The walls now have to be painted 1,000 shekels. For the smell that stays afterwards, I'm not sure he has to pay because it's not a direct nezek. Maybe it's an after. It's a good question. It's an interesting question for a basic, but I'm not sure. It's a good point. We're nearing the end of the Mishnah, and I'm hearing your question. Continues the Gemara. Amud Aleph. Whoa, guys, unbelievable. That's tomorrow's Amud view. Atzad Shavish Shabohen. Yay! Everyone gets in autos.
We're living in the future.
We're living in the future now. A peak for tomorrow. Futuristic Shiur. Atzad, no, you can't. You missed yesterday. You can't go. No. Atzad Shavish Shabohen. The end of the Mishnah said, what's the common denominator between all Nezikin, all 4/6 of us Nezikim? The what? That they're yours, and it's your responsibility. You have to pay for the best of the land. Now, Latuye Mai, what does that come to include? In other words, when the Mishnah tells me that there are 4 or 6 Avos, and then it tells me, these are the main characteristics, that is to say that there should be a different kind of Nezek, which also shares the same characteristic. Get me? In other words, we're not talking about Toldos, we're talking now about a combination of 2 Avos. That's going to be now the name of the game, the entire Amud. When do we have combinations of 2 of us together that can also be Mechayiv you, that answers that, that lives by the same standard as the Avos of the Mishnah, and also has to pay as much? Let's see. Omabai. La'atuye, that comes to include Avnoi, Sakinoi, Umasoi, Shenichan Beroish Gagoy, Venoflu, Beruach, Metzuya, Ve'eziku. Avnoi, Sakinoi, Umasoi are what? The stone, the knife, or the bundle, the burden. Shenichan Beroish Gagoy, you left it on top of your roof uncarefully, and they fell with regular wind, regular gravity. Usually gravity works on Earth, I think. Ve'eziku, and they damaged. So now, this is a new type of nezek, which wasn't mentioned in the Mishnah, and because it has the same characteristics of owned by you and your responsibility, you have to pay. Fact the Gemara, why is that a new thing? Hey Chidami, hold it. What's the story? Hey Chidami. I behadi de ka'azli ka'mazki, if as they were flying down from the rooftop to the street, as they were walking in their trajectory all the way down, they were mazi because it fell in someone's head. Hainu esh. That's just like esh. It's a pure told of esh. It's not a combination of 2 things. This is mamish, a child of esh. Why? Maishna. What's the difference between esh, the koach acher me'urav boy? Esh has another force involved in it, mixed up with it, which is wind. Yeah, and it's your money, it's your responsibility to guard. Haninami, those bundles, that knife that you left on the roof, is the same thing. There's another force involved called wind or gravity. It's your money. If so, it's exactly like fire. This is a typical toldo of fire. If your object, which you left uncarefully on the roof, started flying with the wind, gone with the wind, and boom, in the middle it hit someone's head, that has the same halachic qualities as fire. So that's not a combination, it's not a whole new idea. Ve'ela. Well, let's try again. Let's try a different scenario. Basar denaichi. Maybe they were on the roof and they had a very safe landing. Everyone claps their hands. They had nice safe landing. Thank you, pilot. They now rested nicely in the middle of the street. And now they're mazik. Boom. After they're already put to rest in the street, they're lying statically in the street. Then someone tripped on it. Is that the story? Which avalacha would that be? Pit, bow. That should be pure bow. It's also not a combination of 2 things, right? Because after the mazik, anything that's a stumbling block in the middle of the street, whether it's below ground or above ground, is bow. As the Gemara is going to elaborate now, idaf karinhu, the question is who owns the bow. If you're mafkirit, if you disowned, if you relinquished your ownership over your knife after it landed in the street, Ben Rav, Ben Shmuel, and bow. Remember the machlokes? Both Rav and Shmuel agree that if a bow is hefker, for sure it's bow. It's a tolda of bow. Maishna bow, she can tchilas es yosel nezik. Bow, right from the start, is a mazik. Or in our case, from the second it landed in the street, it's just nezek. It's not an animal that goes into the street and later on mazik. From the first millisecond that it lies on the ground, it's just one big piece of nezek, nothing else. It's your money. You have to guard it. Haninami, these 2, the bundle and the knife and all that, are exactly the same thing, like a bow. They are just one big piece of damage right away. They're your money, and they guard, and they should be guarded by you. So what's the story? Ella, so it's pure bow. Why are you telling me that's a whole new combination, a whole new invention? It's just bow in a different costume, same thing. Ella delafkerino. Let's say he actually kept the knife for himself. The knife fell off the roof, landed. The person wants to keep the knife for himself, wants to take it later. He knows it's in the street, he'll take it later, after 10 children were injured from it, yeah? So let's say it's not hefker. Well, Shmuel, according to Rav, that's not bo. Remember, Rav said that bo is only hefker. Rav sees bo as a hefker av. This is not hefker, so for Rav it's not bo. But L'Shmuel the Omar Kula Mibor Lamadnu, Shmuel says that we learn all of them from bo, even with or without hefker. Hainu bo, same thing as bo. So what's the story? So now the kids, so let's summarize the question. We're trying to look now for cases that would combine two Avos Nezikin. We're trying now to experiment further. Yeah, we have the 4 elements or 6 elements. Let's take 1 and 2 and combine a new thing which wasn't there before, and that would also be something that you're chayav on because it's a brainchild, so to speak, of both. So far, we haven't found it. You're talking to me about the bundle or the knife that's in the middle of the street. What's the story? If you left it on your roof and as it was flying, boom, it hit someone, that's pure esh. If it lied on the street already, on the ground, and then boom, someone tripped into it, or someone's ox tripped into it, or someone's poodle dog, then it's pure bo. What's your story? I don't see any amazing combination over here. It's the same thing. Answers the Gemara. Yeah. L'olam da'afkerinu. Really, we're talking about the bundle that fell into the street, and he was mafkir. He said, it's not mine, it's not mine. He thinks he's exempt from responsibility. He's wrong. V'loy damu lebo, but still it's not like bo. Why isn't it like bo? Ma lebo sheken en koach acher me'urav boi. When bo was created, who created the bow? The regular, biblical, classical bow. Who did it? Me, the person. Mr. Reuven Ruvenovsky, he dug the bow himself with his own bare hands, with his own shovel. Mashenkin here, who created the bow? The man who left it stupidly on the roof, and the wind and the gravity. So there are other partners in crime. There is another partner in creating the bow. Toimar behani, those items shekach acher me'urav bein, they have another force involved in them. The wind brought them to the street, not just me alone. It's also the wind's fault. Yeah, eish tochiach. But you want to tell me you're potter? You're not potter. That's like eish. So maybe it's pure eish. Maybe now you can call it pure eish. It's not pure eish either. Why? A fire burns as it goes along. Fire is constantly and on the move, right? It consumes and consumes and consumes. When I lived in Teichtal, I lived through the big fire. It was really scary. You see how the fire jumps and moves all the time? Yeah, we had a big nace over there. I'll tell you another time, yeah, if you behave. Yeah, so, yeah, the fire moves and moves, consumes, and keeps moving to almost no end. Mashenkin, those guys here, those, they don't move. Once they were mazik, they were in the street, right? After they were in the street, then they started the nezik when they were static. In that respect, they're not like Eish. Bo tochiach. But that's not a reason to patter you, because bo, even though it's static, it's chayev. B'chozer adin. Very nice. Oh, now we're done. We have a combination here. Guys, we're in the lab. We're in the nezikin lab. We found a combination between 2 elements. What is that? That's a bo that was created like Eish. At the beginning, the process of creation, it's like Eish. The fire came and the fire brought it. Excuse me, the wind. I put it on the roof. True, I wasn't careful, but the wind was a partner with me. That's not a reason to patter you, because just because the wind came, that's not enough, not a reason to exempt you. So that's like fire. On the other hand, once it was in the street, only then people came in, or animals came in, the ox came in, and boom, fell in. Like a cartoon, fell in. That's like bow. That was static. That's like a bow, because that's a combination between bow and eish. Otherwise, I wouldn't have known it. That's what the Mishnah says at the end. It shares common denominators with one av and with another av. That new case called bow that started on the roof and ended up. Oh, you thought bow cannot move? That's a moving bow. It's a bow that's moved. He was not born then. He was in my house. He was moved, brought, and then became a bow in the street. That kind of thing is a combination of bow and eish. And it's yours, it's your responsibility, and you have to pay with the best of your land if someone's poodle dog fell inside. Thank you very much, and I'm listening to Jeffrey's question. We are done, but we're not done before you hear a choshev question. Have a great day, everyone. Bye.